In this video, we'll be taking a look at Mexican Americans in the Southwest from 1870 up into the early 20th century. We'll start off in California, taking a look at what conditions were like for Mexican Americans. Last time we were looking at California, we were talking about how there was a massive amount of land loss going on, and we looked at the several different reasons why Mexican Americans were losing land. So by the time you get to the mid to late 1800s, you see that a small percentage of Mexican Americans still own land in California, and that number continues to drop at this time. And so what type of work are Mexican Americans doing at this time? We talked before how Mexican Americans had once owned large amounts of land in Southern California, and there were these large ranchos, and other Mexican Americans had worked on those ranchos as cowboys and other jobs that were involved there. But as the cattle ranches start to go into decline, as we talked about, you'll see that many Mexican Americans start to move into other fields, different types of jobs. For example, like in Los Angeles, as they start to develop the city, you see a lot of construction going on, and Mexican Americans played a major role in the construction of Los Angeles at this time. You also see a lot of Mexican Americans getting involved in more farm work. As I had said in another lecture, as the cattle ranch industry went into decline, the agricultural industry in California really started to take off and develop, and that's what the majority of those lands, those cattle ranch lands, were used for. And so Mexican Americans were working in agriculture as farm workers, and so you have ultimately a lot of Mexican Americans taking on these more menial jobs as unskilled wage laborers, as the amount of land that they owned starts to dwindle. Mexican American women are also going to be joining the labor force during this time. Many of them will be working as domestic servants in the homes of other people, and others will work in factories such as in canneries during this time, as well as farm workers during harvest season. Women would participate in that type of work as well. Now let's take a look at how the development of Southern California is shaping up during this time. The railroad, which is being built in California and connecting California to other parts of the nation, is going to have a major effect. You're going to see that agricultural industry that we were talking about really taking off because of the railroad. Why? Because those products that are being produced on the farms now can be shipped off to other regions and other markets, which is going to increase the demand for them. And so with increased demand, you have the expansion of the farms, and the agricultural industry really starts to take off. With the railroads, you also see a large increase in the population in Southern California as more Anglo-Americans start to move into the region. But it's not just Anglos who are coming to Southern California. You also have migrants from Mexico who are using the railroads to migrate to Los Angeles and other parts of Southern California. And so you have a larger Mexican population developing there in Southern California. As more and more Anglo-Americans start to come into the region, you'll see Mexican Americans being pushed into certain neighborhoods like Sonora Town, for example, in Los Angeles, right? It's just a neighborhood, a Mexican neighborhood, where you have Mexican Americans as well as Mexican migrants being pretty much segregated into this neighborhood, and which is blocking them from participating in the economy in other parts of the city. Mexican Americans during this time will suffer a lot of oppression in Southern California. We had mentioned a little bit about vigilantism with these vigilante groups like the El Monte Boys, and how they were taking the law into their own hands. These Anglo vigilante groups would accuse Mexican Americans of crimes such as murder, and if they found Mexican Americans guilty of these crimes, they would hang them. So these are lynchings, and so Mexican Americans came to call United States democracy lynchocracia, because this wasn't really a democracy of the people. It was more like these, these extra legal groups, vigilante groups, coming together and lynching people if they found them guilty outside of an actual court of law. All right, so an example of oppression and racism happening in Southern California during this time.